I walked into the room. And as I walked into the room, the idea was to make sure the room was cleaned. And so I had my flashlight, I clicked on my flashlight, I walked to the room, everything in the peripherals was okay, the clothes were picked up, the shoes were picked up, the toys were put away, and then I checked his closet. And as I opened up the closet, there was everything he was supposed to put away. There was his clothes, there was his toys, there was his socks, there was his underwear. Everything I told him to put away was not put away. Who am I speaking of? I'm speaking of my 8-year-old Thunderball son, Gabriel. Now we have an agreement. Our agreement is this. This is my iPod. This iPod is filled with Adventures in Odyssey, little stories that the kids listen to every single night. And so the idea is that since it's my iPod and he gets to listen to it every night, the agreement is so long as his room is clean every single night, he can listen to it all night long. It doesn't bother me, doesn't bother his brother, doesn't bother his mother, etc. But if his room is not clean, then he loses the privilege of having that iPod. On that particular night, when I told him to clean his room, make sure his room was clean, I walked in there hoping and praying that everything was done, but my little 8-year-old did not have everything done. He rather hid everything in places where he hoped I would not find. Tellogram's message today is about hidden. Many times in our spiritual life, we try to do the same thing. We try to pull the ruse over God, and we try to say the same thing to God. Our life is clean, Lord. Everything is fantastic, Lord. Everything is A-OK, Lord. When in reality, we have hidden from His eyes, or so we think we've hidden from His eyes, the sins that easily beset us, the sins that destroy us, the sins that affect our spiritual life. Many of us are like my 8-year-old son, who actually look good on the outside, on the peripheral of the room, on the peripheral of our lives, everything looks okay, but there are crevices in our life, crevices in our spiritual journey that have hidden sins. There were two thoughts that I wanted to present to you today. They come from the Bible. One thought comes from the great Solomon, king, son of David. And he writes something very, very interesting in the book of Proverbs, chapter 23, verse 13, which says, "He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will find compassion." Now, what is interesting about this text presented to us by Solomon is a particular Hebrew verb that is used in this verse. The Bible uses the verb hidden, to conceal, but it has the sense of being intensely concealed. It's in a PL form, which basically means that the person intentionally hides their transgression, intentionally hides their sins. Now, my son intentionally hid everything he was supposed to clean into his closet, just like many of us intentionally hide our sins from God. But according to Solomon, he brings out the perspicacious thought and says, "You shall not prosper." Now, there's another thought coming to us from a prophet, Jeremiah. Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 16, verse 17, this is God speaking, "For my eyes are on all their ways. They are not hidden from my face, nor is their iniquity concealed from my eyes." God makes it very clear that there is nothing hidden from His eyes. There is nothing that we can hide in the crevices of our spiritual life, our spiritual journey. There's no pristine situation that we can show everyone and say, hey, we're okay, when deep down inside, we're not okay. God sees everything. We can't hide anything from Him. The safest thing to do today is to bring your hidden sins to God and say, God, I no longer want to hide them. I want a clean room. I want to listen to Adventures in Odyssey. I want the privilege of being your son. So until the next time, this is Pastor Tello reminding you that thoughts do change lives.